give you all a lot. I am going to attempt to share my screen. All right. All right, so I'm going to keep admitting people as they turn up, but we will go ahead and get started. So this is Digging Deeper, part 1, right? So this time we are focused on what we can find kind of within our library or within libraries in general. I am planning a part 2, which is where we go beyond the library walls. So in part 2, I will show you how to dig into some databases, including some specific databases like JSTOR, some of the Library of Congress resources, like in particular Chronicling America, which is their archival newspaper database. But right now, what we're doing today is really focused on kind of finding secondary sources and then finding some primary source collections in terms of archives and letters. So before I get started, if you all don't mind making sure that you're muted, just so we have the best audio for the recording, I would appreciate it. And like I said, this is kind of introductory stuff. I'm going to be sharing slides and then coming off and attempting to show you some actual like how it works in a library catalog. So we'll be moving back and forth. All right. So this is me. I know most of you. I know a lot of you. But when I did make this a public webinar, I got a whole lot of signups. So I don't know if I've met all of you. But in case I haven't met you, I am Kirsten Larson. I love all things nonfiction, kids nonfiction. It is my most favorite thing in the whole world. I write nonfiction. I work with writers trying to bring their nonfiction to life. And now I even have a podcast where I talk with nonfiction authors about different craft and business aspects. So yeah, and I read tons and tons of nonfiction that I get from my library. So I really am passionate about children's nonfiction and trying to make it the best that it can possibly be. So for those I haven't met yet, welcome. It's lovely to connect with you. Okay, so here is what we're doing today. Today, it's the first and kind of a at least two-part webinar series on research. It may go further, who knows? But today, we're going to dive into some practical ways that we can use our library to help us craft our nonfiction or historical fiction stories. So whether you're starting a new project from scratch or you're revising and in need of some other research, libraries are a really great place to start. And in fact, I always start with my library and what I can get for free before I make decisions about sources that I may have to buy or pay to use. So our goal for today, sorry, I'm still admitting people. Our goal for today is that we're going to look at library catalogs and how they work and see how finding a few sources, constructing some good searches, finding a few sources can help lead us to other sources. We're going to talk about how to find harder to find materials using a giant library database called WorldCat, and then requesting those through Interlibrary loan. We'll talk a little bit about different databases and archives that you may be able to find at your public library or at some of these academic libraries, and talk about how you can work with librarians either at your own branch or from afar. I mean, this is the wonderful thing about the digital age is we don't always have to be on site to get the materials that we need. So we'll talk about that a little bit. My goal is to have a little bit of time at the end where if you have brought your library card and you know the website to access the card catalog for your local library, we can do a little digging around. So we'll kind of see how we are on time. So welcome, and let's get going. So the libraries themselves.
No.
What are the, can everybody mute real quick? Just make sure that you're everybody's muted, if you don't mind, so that we have a good, clean recording. So libraries are a great place to start with your secondary sources, right? So secondary sources are sources that are derived from primary sources. And primary sources are materials that are created either at the time of an event, or it could be like a research, a journal article created by a researcher or scientist from their own research. So those are primary sources, and secondary sources normally add a layer of interpretation. So normally they're gonna, probably my go-to secondary source is a great historical book or scientific book or a biography that's packed with a great bibliography, even better if it has endnotes or footnotes that I can refer to. So if you get a really good secondary source, not only does it give you context, it also can lead you to some great primary sources. So different people like to research in different ways. For me, I often start with secondary sources and then move to primary sources to start getting my own interpretation and to start hearing voices, to see what scientists are saying firsthand. Other people like to do it differently. They like to dive in without a layer of interpretation. But for me, I often use secondary sources to lead to primary sources. And that's why a library can be so helpful, because they have so many of these books that we really, really want to get our hands on. So let's talk about how this looks in your library. So I'm sure you've all been in your library catalog before. Gone are the days of having to flip through paper cards for most of us. Most libraries have a database. And so there are different options when it comes to searching. If you know an exact title of a book or resource that you need, you can put in the title. If not, you're either going to search by keyword or you are going to search by subject headings. So keywords are a little closer to kind of natural language. What you have to do is you have to brainstorm words related to your topic. And you can't just come up with one word. So let's say you're researching about the history of electric cars. So your keywords, you're not going to just say electric cars. That may be one thing that you search, but you also need to start brainstorming synonyms and maybe even brand names. So if it's electric cars, you might also search for electric vehicles or Tesla or Prius, some of those brand names, or EVs, right? EV, which is short, an acronym for electric vehicles. So this isn't something that I've always thought about when it comes to keyword searching, but go beyond just your initial gut instinct for a keyword term to use, and try different combinations, different acronyms, different synonyms to see if it yields some different results than what your first group reveals. The second thing to think about is subject headings. So subject headings are these are tightly controlled. So the Library of Congress, most libraries or a lot of libraries use the Library of Congress's subject headings to tag different books by subject. And so they use their very exact terms. And so sometimes it's hard to figure out how a book might be tagged. And I think in the handout that I gave you a link to the Library of Congress's subject headings list, which is like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages long. So what is often an easier thing to do is to start with keywords and do a keyword search. And then when you find a good source that you think is going to work well, look at the subject headings that it's tagged with in the library. So this is a book called The Lives of Ants. It's by Laurent Keller. We're actually going to look at it in the library catalog at the LA County Library in just a minute. But if you look down, you'll see the subject terms that are attached to this book, and it's ants, and it's ants dash life cycles. So what I could do is, I now knowing that this is the type of book, this is the type of book that I want, I can go and I can type in and search by subject, ants dash life cycles, and that will turn up every book in the library collection that's tagged the same way. So once you've dug up a few good resources with those keywords, use the subject terms to find, books that are tagged the same way. Now, my library doesn't have this anymore. You should see if your library has it, but it used to have a feature where if I found a book, there was a little link I could click, and it would show me what books sat next to this book on the shelf by Dewey Decimal. I don't know why they took that feature out. It's kind of similar to using the subject term to find additional books, but when you're in your catalog, see, sometimes you can click on these features about, show me similar books or show me books nearby on the shelf. And it goes through a similar process. But if you use the subject term, it's going to pull up every single book tagged the same way in the library. So to me, I would say this was probably one of the biggest eye openers for me. And I'll show you, we can talk about that a little bit more in a minute. We'll dive into the database itself. So public university websites, if you have any type of connection to a university, if you have ever taken a class as an extension student, or have done like a fine arts degree at a university, oftentimes they will still allow you to access the library and their electronic databases and their resources. So there's a lot of great material at public libraries, especially some of the larger public library systems, but even better if you can access an academic library. So like I used to teach for the University of Phoenix, which is like a for-profit university. I think I taught for them I probably last taught for them like 15 years ago, but I am still in their system and I can still log in and use their library. So search at your public library. If you have any kind of a connection or you've taken classes for fun at a community college or any type of academic library, use those too, because you will get all kinds of sources. And kind of keep a list of those keywords that you're searching with. The subject headings that you find are very helpful. And when you get into the library catalogs, there are a lot of options for filtering that will make finding what you need a lot easier. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now at my local library. So I'm going to come off PowerPoint. And I am going to attempt to share. All right. So this is, there is a simple search option in my library. There is also an advanced search option. And I would encourage you to test out the features in the advanced search option, because it allows you to exclude things that you don't want to include, and make sure that you only include things that you want to include. So for example, this is my local library. If I'm searching by keyword, I can put in the exact keywords that I want. I can put in an exact phrase that I want. If I want to exclude something, like let's say I'm talking about biodiversity, right? And maybe I want to exclude the term racial when it comes to diversity, because I'm looking at biodiversity, not racial diversity. So a lot of times you can put in terms that you want to exclude that often kind of get mixed up with your research. It's not exactly what you're looking for. In my library, there are materials in all kinds of different languages. So I can pick the languages that I want to include. And then you can look at audience. So here's the thing. When I am looking for comp titles, or if I'm wanting to do market research to see what books are already out there and what has already been written on my topic, I will limit my search to children's books. And then I'm only getting those juvenile books. But when I'm doing research and I'm trying to get secondary sources and primary sources, at that point, I am searching for adult books only, and I'll restrict it to adult books so that I'm not getting all of the kids' books on that topic. So it's really important to try to limit your search as much as possible. So let's see, I'm going to put in, remember that ant book I had earlier. I'm going to search by ants. I'm going to say that at this point, I'm really not that interested in kids' books. I only want to look at the adult books because of for my research purposes. And so let's see what we get initially. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and restrict it to English. And let's see how many. Oh, forbidden. Oh, I have to. Okay, hold on. It wants me to relog in. Hold on. I'm going to stop sharing so I can hide my library card. Hold on. Otherwise, it's going to give you all my personal data. Stand by. Because you know my library is awesome and you all want to use my library. All right, let me go back and share my screen. All right, here we go. Let's try this again. So I'm going to do ants. I said I only want adult books and I only want books in English. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay. So for whatever reason, I don't know why it pulled that juvenile. It's pulling some juvenile books, which is kind of weird. But here are a couple of potential books, right? We saw the Laurent Keller book earlier. So what I would do is I would go through and I would jot down these search terms, ants and ants life cycles. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and highlight it. And I might look at the secret lives of ants because that sounds really interesting too. Okay, and so this one is ants behavior. And look, social behavior in animals. Like, I don't know that I ever would have thought to look under that search term. So I might go back with that information. I might go back and search on one of those subject headings and see what I get. Okay, so now I get a very specific search, right? And now I've turned up Ants, Workers of the World by Eleanor Spicer Rice, right? So I would encourage you in your journal or in your research journal to keep track of these subject terms that you're uncovering, right? So here we have ants behavior, right? So let's see what happens when we do that one. So now, look, I'm getting like, really, these look like really kind of meaty scientific books. So I'm also going to hang on to those subject terms, because when it comes time to research different databases for journal articles, I might use some of those similar subject terms that I've just turned up in some of those databases as well. So it's really important to keep track of the keywords that you're using and the subject terms that you're using to get a thorough search and then use them in databases as well. So, but if I were doing this, if I wanted, so this is for my research for an ant book, but if I wanted to look for comp titles, I might now look and see what children's books have been produced on the topic of ants, right? And so now here are a bunch of titles that I can pull and see, is there room in the market for what I want to say about ants? How can I contribute to the conversation and say something different? So let's jump back into the PowerPoint. Oh, and one more thing. You can also, a lot of times you can limit your search also by year. So in my library system, I can say, I only want books that have been published about ants in the last 10 years. So maybe that ensures that I get more current research. Anything that's really old will be weeded out. And I use the limiting of the time frame more for comp titles, because sometimes there's somebody who did the definitive work on a topic and it may have been a while ago. So I do want to see that. And I do want to see what they've written and compare it to the newer titles and the newer research. So a lot of times with my secondary sources I'm trying to get, I'll keep the time frame broad, but with my market research and my comp titles, excuse me, guys, I may restrict it to the last 5 years. So don't be afraid to use that, those time limiters as well. And when you're using search, you can use terms like and, I can say ants and ant behavior because I want to search for both. So it's going to be something that only falls under both ants and ant behavior. If I want it to be something that's the subject term ants or the subject term ant behavior, that'll give me a broader search. You can sometimes use the term not to exclude things, like we said. If you want an exact phrase, you can put quotation marks around it to make sure that you're getting the exact phrase, like electric vehicles with exact quotes, and that will only turn up electric vehicles. And there are what they call wildcard searches. So a lot of times when you're searching, you may have the option to use an asterisk. So instead of writing the full word, like I could write electric vehicle, I could like electric vehicle, but I could put an asterisk instead of writing the whole thing. I could say VEHIC asterisk, and that'll turn up vehicles and vehicle, right? So it's like I don't know how they call it a wildcard search. So, there's different ways to search. A lot of times the advanced search feature in your library gives you those options. So we talked about following the trail with the subject terms, right? So, if I just pulled up wood wire wings because it has a lot of subject terms associated with it. But if I wanted to research a different woman engineer or a different woman in aviation, these subject terms would give me some ideas of where to start different subject terms that I could start searching with. And then a lot of times I will take those beyond the library. I will use them in other databases like Google Scholar or archive.org or JSTOR. Those types of databases we're going to be talking about next time. But keep a list of your subject and your keyword search terms. So once you have those keywords and your search terms, you can also see what books are maybe held by other libraries, but not your specific library. And the reason we might want to do that is a lot of libraries participate in interlibrary loan, which means they don't have the book, but if you give them the information about the book, they are happy to see if they can get one of those libraries that has it to send it. So in order to find books that may be available at interlibrary loan, it's a good idea to search this huge library database called WorldCat, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. WorldCat has more than just books. There are also digital materials that you can turn up in WorldCat as well. But whenever I'm trying to see if there are books I need to order from outside my library, I will start with WorldCat. So let's take a look at this one. All right, I have like so many. Okay, so here I'm pretending I want to write another book on a female aviation pioneer. So I have gone to worldcat.org and I have searched under aviation biographies and women, right? So it's going to pull up things that are tagged with both of these terms. Open access gives me like digital materials that that you can access for free. So you see they have these open access, you know, so these might be ebooks that you can access immediately. But if you also want print books, then I'm going to uncheck open access. And so it starts to give me a list of books, right? So again, if I want, I can restrict by language. I can restrict by publication year. But again, I want some secondary sources, but this WorldCat might also turn up an autobiography by a female aviator from the 1930s. So when I'm doing research, I don't want to necessarily restrict myself to publication year, but if I were looking for comp titles or mentor texts, I might use this last 5 years to restrict it. Again, you can restrict to adult titles or kid titles. And here it's giving you some more subject terms, right? So if you want to narrow your search a little bit more, this will give you some ideas for some additional subject terms that you can use. So these books would fall under aviation biographies and women, but then they would also be tagged with arts and architecture or, you know, education. So again, if you click on one resource, it can help you find others when you start looking into more information, right? So here are the subject headings. So if I haven't already searched at my own library on some of these subject headings, this might give me some more ideas for subject headings to search. What I really want for the purposes of interlibrary loan is you're going to need the ISBN number, and you're also going to need to know where else the book is held. So normally it'll show you the closest locations to you. Sometimes librarians can help you figure out like which library is most likely to send me what I need by interlibrary loan. So they can kind of guide you. What I typically do is I print out this entire record and I take it to my librarian, because the interlibrary loan process has to happen normally at your local library. So I show up with the paper that has the ISBN, that shows the different libraries that have the book that I want. And then they pull up WorldCat and they start filling the interlibrary loan request with all the information. And sometimes there are small fees involved, like $3. They won't make you pay unless the library agrees to send the material. And this process can take a while. So I normally try to use interlibrary loan early in my research process, because it can take 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or longer for these books to arrive after you order them. So start the interlibrary loan process early. And then normally these loans are not renewable. So you have to be committed that as soon as you get the books, you're going to get all the information that you need. And normally it's about 3 weeks, but well, at least with my library, it's typically 3 weeks, but they don't let you keep them forever. And a lot of times it's not renewable. So I am big on, I take pictures of pages of these books, because I always want to be able to go back and see the exact wording and the exact page. So when I have these books on interlibrary loan, I am there with my phone and I am taking pictures of book pages and I am saving them into OneNote. You don't have to, you can just sort them into a folder in your photo program, but I am putting them in OneNote and saving them so I can refer back to them after the book has gone back to the library. Because the last thing that I want is to be in a fact-checking process with an editor. They ask me about how a particular quote is punctuated or a particular fact, and I need to go back to an interlibrary loan book and I can't get my hands on it. So I definitely take pictures of all my pages. Now, I think I'm going to have to sign in to do this. So stand by, guys. So the other cool thing that you can do, come on, WorldCat. So WorldCat also has a couple of functions. You might be able to, you can share, you can copy the link to the particular book. So if you want to go into your librarian with a list of links to make it easier for them to do your interlibrary loan request, that would be awesome. I'm sure they'd be really happy about that. You can create book lists. So, maybe I have a book about, I have a list of resources about female aviators. I can add items to my list and go back to it later. And if you don't, I'm going to show you my favorite citation program in a little bit, but WorldCat has this really cool feature where it will create citations for you as well. So if this is a book that you end up using, you can pick the citation style that you want. Chicago is normally probably the best one. Sometimes I will do MLA, but you can now copy the citation, and WorldCat has done it for you. So WorldCat is a really great resource. So again, I was looking for ants behavior in my library. Now maybe I want to do this search here in WorldCat. Let's say that I want it to be for non-juvenile audiences. And here's all kinds of books. A 1967 book, Ants Observed, Keys to the Genera and Subgenera of Ants, Ants and their Diverse Relations to the Plant World. Like, look at all these additional, my library, I think, had 2 books that fit the bill, adults, and ants behavior. But look at all of these, right? Oh, here's a book I can get from the Australia Department of the Environment and Heritage, right? And this is open access. So again, now I can see which one of these books might I possibly want to order in, and see if my librarian can get them for me. So WorldCat is a really great tool. What you typically have to do is, oh, again, it's logged me out. What you have to typically do is you may have to search on your library website and find out, like, where do they hide interlibrary loan. So, well, let's see if there's a question. Yeah, so a lot of times you'll have to fish around on the website because they kind of bury it. But if you can't find the spot for where to find interlibrary loans, you can always email or ask your librarian. And a lot of times they'll tell you, what you need to do to request an interlibrary loan. Almost every library website has this Ask a Librarian feature, and you can ask them a research question, or you can ask them for help doing things like interlibrary loan. All right, so let's stop that share and go back here. Okay, so the next thing is, depending on your library system. So there are a lot of great research databases. Some of them are free. You can use Google Scholar for free. You can get limited access at places like JSTOR for free. The Library of Congress's Chronicling America database of newspapers is free. But there are a lot of really great research sites that you have to pay big money to get access to. So before I pay for any kind of access, I always see what my library has. And so sometimes you may see a header that says, like, databases. In the case of I'm a member of both the LA County Library and the LA Public Library. And in the case of the LA Public Library, they actually have more databases. So I use them for research quite a bit, but theirs is under the education and research section. So your databases may be put in with, like, homework help and that sort of thing. So look for things like education or research and start there. So one that I like particularly, that you can normally only access through libraries unless you want to pay a lot of money, is ProQuest. There's also, like, EBSCOhost. Gale Reference is another really good one that has, it's almost more like encyclopedic type information on really specialized topics, but they always come with really good references that you can then dig into. And some libraries even have their own archives and their own collections of specific materials. So the LA Public Library actually has a collection of fruit crate labels. So if you are doing research connected to fruit crate labels, the LA Public Library is your place to go. But a lot of them, I know LA Public Library also has a lot of images and resources related to some of the internment camps in Southern California. So it's really nice to kind of explore and see what you have at your branch. But let's see if I'm sure I'm going to have to re-log into the LA County Library now.
Kristen, a quick
comment.
Go
ahead.
You were in presenter mode just a moment ago, so we weren't seeing your slide fully.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Okay, hold up. Yeah, you guys can feel free to interrupt me. Can you see that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, my apologies. Next time, please feel free to interrupt me. I have so many tabs open on my computer right now. Yeah, and feel free to screenshot, right? So we're going to go here in a minute to the LA Public Library, but you can see education and research, the very top thing that they have is these databases, right? So journals, encyclopedias, and more. So we're going to hop over there now. And see. So let's close LA County. We're saying goodbye to the county. We're going to say hello to LA Public Library. Okay, so this is the database section, and 244 databases that I can access through the LA Public Library system. They allow me to, because there are so many, I can search for the type of database that I want. So, you know, if I want a science and technical database because I'm doing my ants project, it'll show me 27 different databases that I can access. So most of these I can access from home. So those are marked with the pink W. Some of them you have to go into a library branch. So they limit the people's ability to access it from home. So I don't see any right here, but some are you have to go to a branch to access. Some require, now this is, you know, so this is just something to bear in mind. Some of these require an LA Public Library card to access, but some don't, right? So you, wherever you're living, could access the Cookery Ephemera collection from outside of LA if you were doing a research project connected to Cookery Ephemera. You can access environmental impact reports from the comfort of your own home, right? So you don't have to have a library card for everything, but a lot of these paid databases, you will have to have a library card from your library system. But the Gale databases are particularly useful for scientific research. You know, so that's a really good one. Access Science is another really good one. If I want to go back and look at, you know, maybe I want to do history. Let's see, maybe I want to look at newspapers, right? So a lot of times they have access, like Access Newspaper Archives. You can pay for access to that. It's not cheap, but I can get it for free through my library. So I'm always going to start there. And then if I can't get what I need there, then I might look somewhere else, right? So always check and see what's available to you for free first, and then figure out what you have to pay for. All right, let's go back. I'm going to select the proper view this time. So then there are also kind of digital libraries. So there is the Digital Public Library of America, which I'll show you in a second, which has a lot of really cool archival materials and collections. And you can search that from anywhere. A lot of academic libraries, even if you haven't been a student at that particular in that particular college, they may have archives that you need access to. And often it's as simple as contacting the library. If you can't go there in person, oftentimes you can contact a research librarian at the university. There are typically finding aids that will help you limit the amount of research that you need. So it'll tell you, like, here is what's in this box of the archives. Here is what's in this box of the archives. And so you can kind of narrow down exactly what you need using the finding aids. And then you can ask the research librarians, and sometimes the materials are already digitized because somebody else has requested them, and they will send it to you. Or if the material hasn't been digitized yet, they may charge you a small fee maybe a small research fee and a small fee per page that's getting digitized, and then they can send you what you need. So, with some of my earliest books, I was not able to travel yet because I had small kids at home and I wasn't able to get away. So I often contacted Smithsonian libraries, Harvard librarians, and said, here are materials that I'm seeking. Can you help me? What would it cost? And typically librarians are more than happy to help. But the key is that you want to use whatever finding aids are available to really try to limit what you're asking for. You're not going to ask for a whole banker's box worth of material. You want to narrow down what you need to a particular file. So one way to search kind of and see where, obviously you can look in the back of some of your secondary sources. Those bibliographies and those endnotes will help you see where the collections that you need are located. And then you will want to go to that library website, that academic library website, to see what's available, to look at the collections, to look at the finding aids, and then to make your request to the librarian. So use online libraries like Library of Congress and the Digital Public Library of America, and then also contact some of these out-of-state libraries as well. So let's look at a couple of these. Okay, so this is the Digital Public Library of America. So it has images, text, videos, sounds. It has all kinds of different collections, primary source sets, right? If you're doing anything on the transatlantic slave trade or the Equal Rights Amendment, right? They have some really great. So what happens is all kinds of different academic libraries kind of contribute their materials to the Digital Public Library of America. And it's a way to search a lot of places at once. So if I hit the US history, let's say I'm doing research on, I can get some information on US history. Here's materials on the Columbian Exchange, right? And look at these. These are primary sources, right? And here's another collection on the exploration of the Americas, right? More primary sources that we can look at. So if you haven't ever searched Digital Public Library of America, that's a really good source. And it tells you like who created some of these different collections. And you can see all these different partner libraries that are part of Digital Public Library. So the National Archives, the Smithsonian, HathiTrust, which is another kind of aggregator of digital and archival resources. All of these people are contributing to the Digital Public Library of America. So this is a really great place to find a lot of sources at one time, right? So let's see what if I do it's US. Let's see what happens if I do US women aviators. So I might start here. Okay, I see a photograph from a WASP reunion. Here's a portrait of somebody. Oh, so this is coming from the WASP Museum. And again, it might lead me to better search terms, right? I did a keyword search. It's not very exact, but now I could use some of these subject terms. Okay, what if I want to do female aviators? Right? So that's going to give me a better search because a subject term is a little more specific right? I can find a WASP newsletter. Man, what a gold mine if I'm doing a book about women air service pilots, right? Here's a patch, letters, right? So the Digital Public Library of America is a really great source. Another excellent place to go that we're going to dig into the Chronicling America database next time, but the Library of Congress has fantastic digital collections. They have so much stuff online. So you can search by topic. And they have, they have all these access to all these sources. And this is just stuff that's available online, right? So there's also, if you're able to go to the Library of Congress, there's a whole other, it's a whole other experience to actually go in and use their collections. So, but we'll dig into their newspaper archives next time. But you can also search by type. Are you looking for photos? Are you looking for film or video, audio recordings, books? So this is another really great place to find a lot of research. And you'll see here, there's also an Ask Librarian option here, right? So you can ask librarians for research help at your local library. If you're in the especially if you're in the US, or ask your national librarians wherever you're living. I know we've got some Australian folks here, but this is another place to go. So there's all kinds of resources. You can chat live with a librarian. So definitely kind of dig in and poke around and see what you can find. Okay. Yeah, so we were talking about Ask a Librarian. So pretty much if you just Google Ask a Librarian and your city or your state, you can find a way to connect with a librarian. And if you have done some research, you have some specific questions, they are typically more than happy to take your question. Just make sure you're not saving it until it's an emergency, like you're on deadline and you need the information tomorrow. Give them a little bit of lead time so that they're not, you're not making it like, oh, I have to have the answer today. And respect their time and expertise. I know you all are, but librarians are wonderful, wonderful, helpful people. So they are definitely your best research partner. Okay, so before we jump into a couple more things, I was going to give everybody, we're almost done. I have just a couple more things to go over, but and then I'll take questions. But I was going to let everybody spend about 5 minutes just kind of digging into their own library to see what you can find. See if you can find your library catalog, use your library card, see if you can come up with some maybe keywords that you hadn't thought about before, brainstorming some synonyms or acronyms or brand names, and then maybe finding a good item and then using that subject term for that item to generate new results. So see what you can. I'm going to give you 5 minutes just to do a little bit of digging in your own library. Where is my phone? I was going to try to put my timer on. All right, I'm going to give you until the top of the hour. And then we'll come back. I'll show you a place to start building your bibliography, and then we'll take some questions. Did anybody turn up any treasures? Anything you hadn't was anybody able to access their library remotely? Yeah, I see some thumbs up. Feel free to chime in.
Hi, Kirsten.
Hello, how are you, Marianne?
Good. Sorry, I guess my video was off
No, you're
because I'm
fine.
busy writing furiously. You're so amazing. Anyway, our library, both the San Diego Public Library and our local Coronado Library, seems to have gotten rid of WorldCat. I get a lot of my books through Linked Plus.
Hmm.
So I'm going to ask them again. I remember asking them about this, and I can't remember why they discontinued it, but I wonder if I couldn't access the LA library. Maybe I should
Well,
try and
maybe
get.
so WorldCat is kind of like an aggregator of library systems. So your library may or may not report their holdings to WorldCat, but you can still search WorldCat to find other libraries that have those books, and then go to your library and say, "Hey, can I do an interlibrary loan?"
Oh,
World
so
World
WorldCat is like
it's
it doesn't have to be within the library, meaning the library doesn't have to show it as a service that they,
Correct. Yeah,
okay.
it's just a
I didn't
set.
realize that.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just a separate way to,
Okay.
if the library participates and shares their collection with WorldCat, it's just a way for you to see which books are held in which libraries.
Okay.
It's a tool that I often use to identify the books, but then I'm going to go to my library
And see what they have.
and say, can I do an interlibrary loan? And it's just how I show them, this is the book I need. This is the
Right.
ISBN number. And
Okay.
also, I know where some of the libraries that have this book that you could make the request to.
So it's really a website then. I
Yeah,
didn't realize,
it's just a
I
website.
guess it used to be on our library homepage and then they eliminated it.
Mm.
And when I asked, I think he said they're no longer participating in it or so. I'll have to ask again
Yeah,
why.
yeah. It just shows you who has which books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
So
cool. I
yeah,
use
you
Link Plus a lot.
okay. Yeah, and I don't know that one, so now I'm gonna have to go look that up.
Oh,
So
Link Plus is a way to do interlibrary loans. That's how we do them.
okay. See, and I have to go into my library to request it. I can't do them on my own.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah,
Oh, interesting. You would
yeah,
think LA would be a little more hip than that. Come
yeah. So
on.
everybody, you know your library, right?
Oh,
This
I
is the
know.
bottom
They know
line.
me on a first
Yeah,
name basis.
know your library.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. So did anybody else have any luck searching or finding any good stuff?
Yes, Kristen, I found something very interesting. I was
Oh,
looking
good.
for the forces of flight, and I
Uh-huh.
found Let's Fly a Plane. It's by a flight aerospace engineer, and it is for children, so that's wonderful. But I also found something that really stimulated another idea. The Astro Chimps, America's first astronaut, and it's about
Oh,
chimpanzees. And that just gave me an idea for something.
well, so go look at the
Thank
subject terms, right?
Yeah.
Go look at the subject terms and then
All I put in
find.
was the forces of flight.
Yeah, well, and now you can look at the subject terms for that chimp book and maybe find more similar materials, right?
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
awesome. All right, I'm just going to show you all a couple more things, then I'll take questions. Oh, I wanted to show you. So I was talking about finding aids. So when I was writing A True Wonder, which is my book about Wonder Woman, the papers of Wonder Woman creator William Moulton Marston are held at the Schlesinger Library, which is, I think it's part of Radcliffe. Yeah, I think it's part of Radcliffe or Harvard, one or the other. So, in order to see what is in it, and it's like boxes of material, right? So, libraries that have letters and archives, they create these finding aids, which are essentially like descriptions of what material is in kind of which boxes, right? So, here, I can look and there's an article, here's an autobiography by one of the women he was in a relationship with. So it'll tell me this is in, if I want to look at letters from William Moulton Marston, it's in box 2, mixed materials. So when I'm talking to the librarian, you may have to say, what I'm looking for is in box 2, letters from William, Moulton Marston. And you can see it says 2 file boxes, and it's like multiple folders within that file box. So this gives you an idea of like kind of narrowing down where the research material, what file drawer is it in, essentially. So you may have to use these finding aids and talk with your librarians to help you locate like specific things that you need, or if you needed the scrapbook, the scrapbook is in box folio plus box 3, right? So use the finding aids to kind of help you find exactly where things are. Okay, a couple more things. I was going to show you my favorite place to start your bibliography. It is now MyBib. So I showed you.
I love MyBib.
Yeah, you can copy citations directly from WorldCat. But the thing that I love about MyBib is a super clean interface. You can type in, you can paste in a website that has, information, and it'll generate the citation for you. You can put in the title or the ISBN of a book. It will generate the citation for you. You can put in the DOI number for a journal article, which is kind of like the ISBN number. It'll generate the citation. You can enter them manually. You can say I interviewed Tom Smith, right? And I'm going to say I did that today. Oh, I can't type. Okay, and then let's see. Do I not have everything I need? Is it online? Why is it not letting? Okay, hold on. I can't see. Why is it not letting me generate?
Say save.
Oh, I can't. You know what? It's blocked by my Zoom toolbar. I can't get to it. Hold on. Stop share. I can't get down there. The Zoom toolbar's in the way. All right, hold on. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to let me go back to it. Let's try this again. So I'll show you what it looks like once I do it. Okay, so I hit save, which I couldn't. So there it is, right? Now, that's formatted as MLA, Modern Language Association. But what if my publisher wants it in Chicago? That's not a problem. I'm just going to come over here, and if I could hit the button down here, which I can't. Oh, yeah, I can. Okay, now it's converted it to Chicago Manual of Style. What if my publisher says, hey, I want it as APA, which they probably won't ever do. It reformats it as APA style. So I absolutely love this. You can import things, then you can download your references, copy and paste. Super, super easy. I love.
I didn't realize you can copy and paste them.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of MyBib. So I was just gonna. It's never too early to start your bibliography, so I wanted to go ahead and show you all that today. So with that, we did that, and I was just gonna say, I right now am trying to do these kind of mini webinars about once a month. I am going to do another research webinar July 22nd, where we actually dig into some of these databases. I'll talk about how to contact and approach interviews with experts. I'll talk about how to use Google search a little smarter. We'll talk about some places to get archival images, especially free images. So the next session on July 22nd is called Digging Deeper Beyond the Library Walls. If you scan that QR code, that will take you to the sign up. That one's going to be $25 or $10 for my insiders. And if you want to be kept in the loop about these opportunities, sign up for my newsletter, because I always put them in my newsletter, and it's a double opt-in. So you have to sign up. Kit sends you an email and you have to click OK, or they're not going to add you to my list. So it's a double opt-in. So with that, I hope to see some of you back next time. I will send out the recording. I will send out the handout again, and then I am open to any questions. And we can all, I know there's a lot of people here with a lot of research experience. So this is not all one way. If you all have things you want to share related to library research, please let me know. I see a few things in my Adriana says, do you have to create accounts at all these websites like WorldCat? You don't to search, but if you want to, in WorldCat, if you want to create like your own book list that you're saving these titles that you're finding, if you want to create a list of books that you're saving, you have to create an account. Otherwise, you can just search it without logging in. That's fine. Yeah, and a lot of things like Library of Congress, you don't have to create an account. Digital Public Library of America, you don't have to create an account to search. But a lot of times, if you want to save stuff, that's when you have to create an account. What other questions? Oh, Celeste asks, is Pinterest acceptable to find a resource to do research? I mean, you can find a link to a source anywhere. It's just a matter of getting into that. Like what kind of, Celeste, are you still here? Are you able to tell me a little bit more about what kind of source you're looking for?
Thanks, Kirsten, for this wonderful workshop. Yeah, I happen to be on another author's Pinterest page. They have a Pinterest page, and I saw a couple of resources, links that they had on there that led me to some research that I could use, but I wasn't quite sure what category that falls into in terms of the type of research.
Yeah, so I mean, you're going, I mean, basically what Pinterest is people are pinning links to a board. So you're following the original link to a source. So me personally, I would probably just cite that source. Just like if I have a book and it's a secondary source and it tells me that, you know, the research came from these papers and these articles, I'm probably going to go to that primary source and look at it myself. If I'm quoting just from the primary source, then that's what I'm citing. If I'm citing, you know, the synthesis that the secondary source has done, then I'm citing that. But with Pinterest, I mean, are they providing any information on the Pinterest itself that you're quoting, like their words, or it's just leading you to a link?
It just led us to a link. It said, if you like this subject, if you like this topic, then here are some links for additional research.
Okay, then I don't think you have to cite the Pinterest. You're just going to go to the original source.
Okay.
And cite it.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
It's kind of like saying, like, you don't have to cite Google if you did a Google search and the Google search led you to the link. You're just going to go to the link, and cite the link.
Okay.
Yeah, other questions? Or insights. I don't know everything, and I know a lot of you are pros. So if you have other tips and tricks and ideas for things to share or things that work for you, please feel free to chime in. Oh, somebody scored big on DPLA. Awesome. Amber, great. Yeah, I mean, I think this is the hard thing, right? There are so many sources out there, and it's like drinking from a fire hose. Like, how do you get your hands on all these sources. It's so hard. But yeah, DPLA is cool because it aggregates collections from a lot of libraries and a lot of places. So now you're searching in one place and getting a lot of information.
Hey, Kristen, I had one thing I can add. I'm a
Yeah,
librarian. I'm a
Oh.
librarian.
Yay,
This is fun,
librarians!
still a good refresher. I know, and you know this, but I know CLC, especially like if you're looking at, pay attention to those dates. And then sometimes there'll be multiple records for one book. And that's because librarians have cataloged it differently. Sometimes, especially like if you're going to order it, it may be the large print edition, an abridged edition, the audiobook edition. So pay attention to that. Usually if it's if there's I'll say two records like on your ANT book, and one has like 2 libraries that have it, and the other one has 15 or 300. Pick the one that has 300 because they've cataloged it correctly is what it amounts to. Anyway, that's just a little librarian tip.
Yay! Thank you, Linda. I appreciate it. That's awesome. Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, and I think sometimes if it gets a reprint, right, then it gets a different ISBN, right? So yeah, so Angela is sharing that a lot of times scientists will send you PDFs of their articles if you ask, right? So next time I'm going to show you some places that you can research databases where you can get some of these resources for free. But if you find that you can't get a scientific journal article that you need, or any journal article that you need, you can't get it through a database at your library, and you just keep hitting paywalls, then at that point, it is a great idea. I wholeheartedly endorse Angela's idea of contacting the researcher to say, hey, I'm a children's book writer. I'm really interested in your research. I found this article. It is exactly what I'm looking for. Is there any way that you can share it with me? And a lot of times they are happy to do that. And now, when we talk next time about contacting experts, now maybe this is a person you want to interview yourself, and you've made this personal connection with them, and they know how excited you are about their research. So yes, definitely. I have had researchers send me their articles before, especially if they're people that I'm interviewing. Yeah. Other tips and tricks that folks want to share. Well, thank you for humoring me on this on this free webinar. I was like, you know what? Let's invite everybody. So hopefully you all, I know a bunch of you are pros, so hopefully a few of you learn some new things. It's always nice to have an opportunity to connect. And if you feel so moved, we will look at diving into some databases, some actual databases, and doing better Google searches next time. So hope to see you all. Have a lovely evening.